Welcome to GolfCask Tastings. Slide up a stool, enjoy the pour.
Hey there, GolfCask Nation. This is Bailie and our 104 tastings from my birthday in 2024 to my birthday in 2025. So looking to bring in 2 tastings to you a week. So who we have this week? We have Buffalo Trace. Buffalo Trace is an American bourbon. It's kind of the godfather of the traditional entry-level bourbons. Allocated, don't know why, hard to find. Buffalo Trace, they're spectacular at marketing and creating a buzz, and they do it spectacularly with every release that they have, from Benchmark, they're very entry level with their single barrels, all the way up to, you name it, with E.H. Taylor, Pappy, all that. Buffalo Trace, tip of the cap. You guys are spectacular at what you guys do. I actually have a sample bottle here. I didn't want to open up my big bottle, so I went out and bought a sampler. Sometimes the sample bottle is a lot easier to find than the big bottle. So without further ado, let's dive in here and talk about Buffalo Trace. So the first thing we want to do is give us a good swirl, get some aromatics going. More so, let's start to see what the legs look like. What are legs? Legs is the running down the side of the glass of the alcohol back. The skinnier the legs usually tells you less proof, less viscosity whiskey. Wider, slower moving usually means higher proof and more of an oily, sticky, higher viscosity whiskey. So again, it's going to give you an idea of what's going to be entering as you taste it, some of the key tones you'll be able to pull from it. So again, we know Buffalo Trace is 90 proof. We know mash bill. Well, we don't know the exact mash bill, but we know it's predominantly corn because it's a bourbon. It does have rye, but I believe it's a lower rye bourbon, somewhere in that probably 10% range. And then we also know that it has malted barley, because barley is the godfather of actual fermentation. So most whiskeys have barley in it. Those would be your 3 main grains inside of Buffalo Trace. But again, to me, this is the entry-level quintessential bourbon. What do we know about Buffalo Trace? We're going to get sugars, we're going to get sweet, we're going to get vanilla, we're going to get oak, we're going to get a little bit of spice, but kind of hiding in the background. And sometimes you can even pull out some good fruit notes. So that's what we kind of know. So again, proof-wise makes sense. We know this is at 90 proof. We see the legs are thinner, which means they've added water to the system at some point. So your thinner whiskeys usually have water. Your thicker whiskeys tend to be barrel proofs, come straight out of the barrel. But not always the case, because they can water down the whiskey before they put it in the barrel. Whiskey makers, you gotta love them. So again, we're going to go ahead and go now into nosing. The way I like to nose is I put my nose all the way in the actual glass and I open my mouth. I breathe through my nose, exhale through my mouth. To me, this is I have found to be the best way to nose without blowing up my olfactory. Ooh, that is bourbon. I'm getting caramel, I'm getting sweet, I'm getting vanilla, I'm getting fruit, and I'm getting a little bit of oak dancing around in the background. Spectacular. It's a really good nosing whiskey. Again, for new bourbon drinkers, I say Buffalo Trace is kind of where you want to start, if you can find it. Color-wise, we're looking at a kind of an amber. So for a bourbon to get to this color, we know that it goes into the barrel clear. To get to this color, you're probably looking at 4 to 6 years, give or take. That is kind of getting into that category. The longer it sits in the barrel, the darker the whiskey becomes. So again, you can start to learn a lot about age statements and start predicting age statements by the color of the whiskey. Now, bourbons, you cannot add coloring, so you can't kind of fake that. Some whiskeys allow you to do that, but inside of the bourbon, you can't do that. So you can really start to get a good sense of the actual age. Now, sometimes there's some tricks that they'll play with the type of corn that they use and stuff like that can add some color and tint to it. But again, we know that this is just probably in that 4 to 7 year range. So without further ado, let's try it. It's Buffalo Trace. Smooth, approachable, sweet, vanilla, oak. A little bit of caramel dancing around. Finish is medium to medium short, getting the same flavors, a lot of sweetness, and a little bit of dry mouth. So it's a little drier finish, so we're not getting kind of that oily, but it makes sense. Our legs are thin, our proof is down. You tend not to have a big, long, robust finish. A good whiskey to start with. So we're going to use the GolfCask scoring system. We're going to score the nose, we're going to score the taste, we're going to score the finish, and we're going to give an overall ranking. So nose, 3, solid par. It's a good whiskey. If you can find it for 30 bucks, it is a good whiskey to put on your shelf. Taste-wise, 3, pushing maybe 3.5. It is definitely a par. Pushing birdie on occasions, to me, again, it's a good entry, good smooth. It's a good entry whiskey once again for you. Finish, probably 2.5, 3. It's a little short, a little dry mouth, not a robust finish, but it's okay. Again, it doesn't harm the experience, but again, I would like to see a little bit more. Overall, what would I rank this? This is a 3. This is a good, solid American bourbon. So in Ireland, all of our Irish friends, there's Buffalo Traces everywhere over there. It's much easier to find than it is here in the States. I encourage you, go buy a bottle, sit down with some friends and enjoy it, and see what the American bourbon has to offer. Kind of 3 basic standards for American bourbon is what? It has to be at least 51% corn, it has to be made in America, and it has to be aged in at least 2 years in charred oak, new white oak barrels. So that's kind of the general definition. There's more to it. We'll do an episode on that. But again, to me, really good opening salvo for our 104 tastings from birthday to birthday. As we go, there'll be less filler, and I'm just going to go straight into tastings. This is kind of an intro for people that might be new to whiskey, because again, we did Buffalo Trace, get them to understand kind of the whiskey progress. But overall, 3, 3, 2.5, 3 overall. It's a good, solid par. Cheers, Salancha. Look forward to bringing you 103. Life is good.